Hi, my name is Daniel Lieberman, and I'm co-founder of Frank. And at Frank, we are building a transparent ledger, public-facing transparent ledger of all the activity of entities who wish to show the outside world how they utilize funds. So imagine you donated money to a charity, and you're happy and excited, and you are waiting to see what is next. And what do you see? You see pretty much nothing, except probably you will get some marketing updates and an generic annual report a year or a couple of years later, when you probably already forgot about what was it about. But the truth is, we all want to know what is actually happening then. And Frank gives users the ability to see exactly how their money are spent and to see what is the exact impact of their participation in the charity. At the same time, for non-profits, for charity, Frank is a way to market themselves through ultimate transparency and to communicate with their users who actually dedicated to what they are doing directly. So what we are doing, actually, we come to charities, we plug into their bank accounts, we take their data, we collate it, we present it to the end users in a visual, simple form, interactive, where they can communicate with charities. It is an app, it is web, it's API, and the question is, why we need it? Why is it, especially today, when we need to reinvent the 1,000 years of banking, and instead of having a bank which is hiding money, to create a bank which is actually showing up all the money, showing 100% of transactions, every single penny? It is coming from the understanding of the generation shift. So the recent studies of Blackbout showed that nearly 60% of the younger generation donors claim that the ability to see directly how the money are spent, how the donations work, would have a significant effect on their decision to give money to charity. Moreover, based on the data from Blackbout and the recent survey which was made by British think tank New Philanthropy Capital, US charities are missing out on almost $10 billion a year because of the lack of transparency in the way how charities spend money. And if we will think about this trend globally, over the next 10 years, charities might miss global above $1 trillion missed donations. So basically what we're saying is that the transparency can be the best marketing tool for non-profits, and it's free to open their books. It's totally free, while at the same time it helps them connect with their donor base directly. So the thing is, if you will look wider at what Frank is doing, is you will imagine that there are multiple usage of what it is, of transparent ledger. Pretty much any group of people who gather money for a specific cause can use it, can use transparency in every case when the trust is a necessity. So it is crowdfunding, it is non-profits, it's family budget, cooperatives, and it's actually governments, municipal governments. They all might win if they will be transparent. A little bit about us. Me and my brother This idea came to us over 15 years ago. So we were born and raised in Russia. We faced 90s, when in the 90s, most of the people lost most of their saving twice during the decade. So we saw that the major reason and the major problem was in corruption and inefficiency in government. And one day we decided, okay, transparent money can solve this problem, ultimately solve this problem. So we even came to Russian parliament back in 2001 and presented this idea to a group of people in the parties. And you can imagine what was the reaction. So pretty much the most kind advice was, shh, or someone will kill you. So we fled and we became entrepreneurs. We decided that we should earn our money to make this idea reality one day when the time comes. We built several successful high-tech companies. We're engineers. One of the latest companies which we've done is one of the largest, most efficient animation studio in Russia, which through many years produced half-hour show, TV show in 1 week from the script to the air. We also done several other companies and invested in several other startups. And the team behind us is the best product designers and engineers who we know, the people who for several years been working together, co-founding several startups. And we're also supported by a group of amazing advisors, like Greg Keith, who is one of the early investors in Twitter, Square, Coinbase, and Ripple, and also many other startups. And he's a dedicated believer in what we are doing. Also, Larry Feinberg, who is spending literally hours every week with us, trying to help us to figure out the way how we will integrate with the banking system. And Bart Sui, who is leading us through a dark area of banking regulations and compliance. So this is a group of great people who know what we are doing. Then also talking about support, we are receiving a great acceptance here in the area, and crowdfunding, all kind of crowdfunding platforms can become a springboard for transparent money, which would bring the idea to millions of people. So we came to Indiegogo, we came to AngelList, we came to Rocket Hub, Brigade Media, Kickstarter, we came to all these guys, and all of them were super excited about the idea. They said, okay, that's cool, when the product is ready, give it to us, we will integrate, we will test it, and we will definitely bring it to our audience. Where we are today. So we invested our own funds for this to become reality. We already developed all the visuals of the product design. We developed all the visual prototypes. We started developing product, and we planned that the alpha version of the product would be ready by autumn this year. And right now, we decided we should raise up to $1 million for this company to get to a point when we provide in service to clients and have interaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. And now time for questions from our esteemed judges on the stage and in the room, please. In the room, if you have questions, raise the hand, and on stage you have microphones.
We have some questions?
Yes.
So how do you make money? What's your economic model?
What's our economic model? The thing is, what we build in Frank is a new behavioral space, is a new behavior of users in multi-hundred-billion-dollar industries. And we believe that when this thing will come, the profit will come in many different ways. It is hard to imagine that there can be a donor who would, once he experienced the transparency in the way how non-profit spending their money, they would all ever go the same
But who writes you a check? So would the Clinton Foundation write you a check, or would their victims write you a check?
This can be perceived in many different ways. So the crowdfunding platforms is obvious as people who actually pay with their credit cards. And it's them who want to see how the money are spent with the project and when the product is going to be really delivered and what was the reason why it wasn't delivered. And for them to think, oh, okay, these guys haven't stole this money. They just failed. Or it can be a Clinton Foundation, for example, when they're writing a check. For people to see that actually, okay, this one, at least this one is not a fraud because we see how this money are spent. And this can be a family fund, this can be donors advisor funds, who, when they're granting money to any other charity, they can actually ask them to be transparent, to spend their money transparently. So it's pretty much different variety of the use cases.
So, follow-up question. I agree that there's a trend towards more transparency, but one concern would be that, a lot of nonprofits have a struggle around sort of over-earmarking donations because a lot of the operations behind them are not sexy. And so I wonder if you've received any resistance from nonprofits in sort of pitching this because, people may not understand that when you're using dollars towards administrative costs, what the impact of those dollars are. I would wonder if actually the impact of each dollar, quantifying that in some way, is more valuable.
Yep, and that's we see it in many different ways, and we describe it to the nonprofits in many different ways. The thing is, when everybody pretty much, or a big part of the nonprofits, will show how they spend money and what it is exactly the back office, the marketing spendings, and all this stuff, and we will see that all of them have pretty much the same thing, and it's kind of a necessity. That's how this thing works. It will stop. It will stop being that like, oh, you guys spending that much money on the marketing. It's like it just have to become an understanding in the market among donors that that's how this thing works. Also, at the same time, looking through the way how people spend money can help them to be more, how nonprofits spend their money, can help them to be more efficient in the way how they spend money, because they can see how others doing the same. And this is not a corporate secret. This is something which we do for good, which is something which we do for public good, and share the knowledge of the way how we spend the money, how we actually achieving our goal, is kind of a already obvious thing. We should share this knowledge. Already there are nonprofits who already keep their books open, like they publish in PDFs on their websites, and they don't afraid of this. So they actually have this dialogue with their clients, and when we started talking with them, they said yes. Initially, we've been afraid that we will start getting receiving millions of emails from people who are yelling on us, saying like, "Why you spend my money on TV advertising?" The thing is, they end up having only like majorly the positive feedback from users, advices of how they can spend them more efficiently, and stuff like that, or questions which was like polite question, like, "What is it? Can you explain it?" And the explanation is always there. Because usually nonprofits are doing good. They're doing it for good, not just because they want to spend money.
Okay, more questions?
I have a quick one. I think I saw that you guys have spent, what, $250,000? But I haven't seen anything as far as what kind of traction you guys got, anything. You mentioned that you're thinking about integrating with banks or working with AngelList. Like, what's done?
The thing is, we started building the product several months ago, and we will probably finish the product. We expect we will finish the product by the end of summer. So we will start with our pilot limited number of nonprofits in September. That's our plan. So the traction will go later. The Indiegogo and all these other guys, they just, we've met with them and they just said, okay, when you're ready, that's so cool, that let's integrate with us. Let's show how it works.
More questions?
What's your initial go-to-market strategy? So for most community-oriented companies that I've seen, there's kind of this death by 1,000 cuts where you need to get the nonprofit agency to support you, and that's hard. And then they're going to push your app down to the consumers, and that's hard. The consumers need to adopt it, and then they actually need to use it after they download it. So how do you break through that?
So the way how we see it again is the crowdfunding is pretty great springboard because there are already millions of people who almost every day are there watching, waiting for some great projects. So crowdfunding platforms can become a free marketing space for us, which will bring the idea to donors. Then we currently meeting one by one with nonprofits who we believe initially, who we feel initially would be ready to be just our client right away. We've met with several bigger ones, and you can imagine they have lots of hesitations. Most probably because some of them are not that efficient, so they don't want this to be that visible. But inevitably, it will come to a point when it will already be strange to not use something like that. So we pretty much don't expect to have more than 2% of the markets in the next 3 years, probably next 3-4 years. It is going to be a long pass. We understand this and we're ready for that.
Okay. Let's thank Frank for great presentation. Good luck.